So on today's Boostcast, we're going to focus on the circular economy. What is it? Why is it so important? And what should we be doing to help it? And I thought it would be useful just to give a perspective that 92% of the things that we humans consume, like wood or metals, chemicals or plastic, gets used once before it becomes waste. 92%. And I don't need a scientist to tell me that is not a good statistic. The second thing to say is I introduce Rob. Good afternoon, Rob.
Good afternoon, Mark.
I wanted to ask you along, Rob, because having met you and we talked about the circular economy, what I loved was your absolute passion about it. And you recently left university at Exeter, started your job, and your job is with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. That's right, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, completely.
Now, I know about Ellen MacArthur because I was a competitive yachtsman when I was about your age, which is a few years ago now. And of course, I was conscious about the amazing Ellen MacArthur because I think it was 2005, she broke the world record for solo circumnavigation of the world. So an extraordinary athlete. And then straight afterwards, she said, I need to do something significant for the world in which we live. And I think it was 2009, Ellen MacArthur set up the foundation. So first of all, tell us, what is the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and why did you join?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, Mark. It's great to be here. And so the Ellen MacArthur Foundation is a sort of like a think tank that is based on the Isle of Wight. And the key idea is to promote the concept of a circular economy, as you mentioned, which is one that will design out waste and pollution. It will keep materials and products in use, and it will also regenerate natural systems. And so I've always been quite interested in sustainability for a long time, but I realized that sustainability wasn't necessarily offering much of a business case. And then I came across the circular economy just through studying at university. And that led on to finding out about how much work the Ellen MacArthur Foundation is doing surrounding the concept of the circular economy. And so that really led to the inspiration of wanting to be here on the island throughout.
You're on the Isle of Wight as we speak.
Yes, yeah, on the island now. And it's a brilliant place to be. And I can see why Ellen was very much into sailing and everything. But yeah, that was pretty much the reason for wanting to get involved, was to actually make a proper business case towards why we should be more sustainable.
And Ellen MacArthur, from a very early part of that foundation, started to trigger lots of support and lots of publicity, partly because of who she is, but also what she's doing. So a lot of companies, big companies, started to say, we want to be involved. We want our brand to be associated with this. So tell us a little bit about what the foundation does today.
So today, what the foundation does is it runs off a few systemic initiatives, is what they're called. So you've got fashion, food, plastics, and finance is a new one. And so they all offer advice and knowledge to companies that are within that industry, for example. And so the help they offer is they provide what the knowledge actually is of the circular economy and how they can implement it and how they can actually push it forward and become the pioneers within that industry. And so what we're seeing is there's quite a lot of organizations and companies that are wanting to be involved in that, which is brilliant. And it's growing and growing all the time as more people find out about it. But a secondary thing that the foundation does, which is almost just as key, is the idea behind the actual learning for not just businesses, but individuals and anyone really, the whole public. And that is what's leading on to the growth of it, the concept of circular economy. And that's what's leading on to more companies wanting to be engaged and involved. And that's pretty much it. It's just to push it out there, really. Let people know about it and just show why it is a key method to changing the current system.
And I really want to come back to this point about what can we as individuals do? because I said I know Ellen MacArthur. I've been following her because she's an extraordinary leader. And yet on reflection, what am I doing to help the circular economy? Big question mark. And I want to change that. Let's talk about one of those segments you talked about. So let's talk about fashion.
Sure.
And how can fashion as an industry be more circular? Give me some examples.
Sure. So fashion is a real challenge because it's textile based, and so you need a resource from the earth, and then you have to take that, you make something out of it, and it's very easy to just say and dispose it, because fashion changes quickly. It's a massively trended thing. And so what Foundation is doing is they're trying to show how you can keep that product in use. And so, for example, a project I've been working on with a good friend of mine called Myriad is a t-shirt clothing company that looks to keep the t-shirts in use for longer. So by remanufacturing and repairing the t-shirt rather than disposing it. And so what it is the t-shirt is made from a purely organic material, pure organic cotton, which then is worn. And once the trend is over, or the consumer doesn't want to wear it anymore, they can return it, and it gets remanufactured, broken down into the individual threads again. And because there's no plastic in it and it's pure cotton, it means that there's nothing stopping it from being remanufactured into a new t-shirt. And so therefore we've taken away the make thing, and now we just take from the first period, because there isn't enough in circulation yet to be always continually looping. So you have to have a slight input for now, but as more and more that happens, we'll gradually have to push away from that, and it'll still be in the main loop that goes. And so that's one example of a company using circular economy in fashion. But another one is a company called Gerrard Street in the Netherlands, and this might not be quite so much the traditional fashion viewpoint of clothing, but it's headphones.
Oh yeah.
And so one thing they do is they've designed their headphones that they're modular, and that they are based on almost like a product as a service model. So they're on a subscription based payment. And so something that happens with headphones is they're extremely wasteful, because if you break like the tiniest little bit, the whole thing has to go, right? It has to go in the bin, and you make a new one, which is kind of not really necessary. Whereas what these guys have done is they're modular. So if the earphone bit is broken, you just take that off, you send it back to the Netherlands, and they send you another bit, but you've still got the remainder of the headphone there. So they're only remaking a tiny proportion of it, therefore cutting the waste significantly.
I love that. So it's what we're saying is absolutely not single use. It's multiple usage wherever possible. Recycle to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, come back to Myriad, Rob. Is Myriad your business? Did I get a flavour for that?
Yes. So it's a business that I've co-founded with a good friend of mine, also from the University of Exeter, Dom Hughes, who we sort of started it up about a couple of months ago.
That's exciting.
Yeah, and it's been a brilliant learning experience. Not only because of the concept is quite a challenging one to get our heads around in the first place, due to the benefit that there's no wasted inventory, but also that means that we have no inventory. So for example, at the moment, we've had to learn how to look at things in advance, because obviously with the lack of supply chain brittleness, we thought we'd be able to counter that, but unfortunately we've been slightly caught up due to the pandemic and not being able to get as many t-shirts out there. But it's an awesome model, which basically just means that there's zero waste, and we've been trying to get it out there and trying to get people on board, and there is some flavour towards it. People are, there's a massive trend of consumers moving towards sustainably conscious consumption, and so this model is bang on that. It's bang on that line. There's another model that some fashion industries are trying to do, fashion companies are trying to do, which is reuse of t-shirts, which is which is cool. And I think that's really awesome. But you've got a major barrier of people wanting to rewear other people's clothes. Whereas this model counters that, because it means that you're still not throwing it away, but people are still getting their new t-shirts in a way that it's still material that's been broken down and put back together.
So do you have any product? I'm getting excited now. Do you have a t-shirt that you could show us that is what you do? That would be really interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've got this t-shirt here. I don't know if you can just make that up.
So is that a Myriad logo? Is that your company logo?
That is, yeah. So this is, we chose this logo as our target market. We were looking for are people that tend to be outdoors. And
so is that the crest of a wave?
Yeah, and so
Cool.
we chose a wave that would sort of symbolize being out and about in the environment, and also because, I mean, this is probably quite maybe slightly cliche, but it kind of brings in the idea of loops and how we've kind of closed a loop on fashion, or eliminated fast fashion through this concept. And I mean, it's a really good material. It's organic 100% cotton, and so it feels nice. It's quite light in this one, but we have two lines of t-shirt. So this one here on the back, you can see it's made.
Oh yeah, remade.
Made to be remade. So this one here is actually, as I mentioned earlier, because there's not enough stock currently in the flow, that we've had to input some. This is the line that inputs. So this is actually a new t-shirt from the suppliers, with the aim that it will then be sent back once it is either ripped, ruined, or say just not wanted anymore, you know. And then we have a second line, which is a made from worn out tees line. So that's the one that is now second generation, and that's the truly circular one, which is incredible. And it only comes in grey at the moment because of development of size of the business, etc. But with the aim to move into black next, as I think that's the next easiest colour to get from it. But both chains of these t-shirts, both lines, sorry, will
and
come.
show us the back as well, Rob, so I can see because there's a design we missed. Oh, cool. Yeah, Myriad. So Myriad's the company, circular is the concept, made to be remade. Very cool. Very cool.
And these designs are all done by really awesome people that are out there so this was done by a lady in the Swiss Alps, I think she is, and she is very heavily on the sustainable front, as I'm sure you would be if you're out there all the time, right? We also have a designer from Colorado who's put together a couple of really awesome designs of her favorite mountains out there.
So, Rob, I am going to go down the route now of individual behaviour, because in all of the big campaigns at the moment, be it Look After Our Planet, be it Black Lives Matter, there's a strong indication that do something. Don't just say, oh, it's not good enough. Do something. So what can individuals do to enable the circular economy to be more mainstream, to make a difference? What would your advice be to those of us who are listening to say, come on, we can do something?
Sure. Cool. Good question. So I think, like, one of the key things is to, it's also just not to get too overwhelmed by the concept of how bad the crisis is, to draw on that first. It's pretty blatant that if we don't do something drastic now, then we're going to run out of resources, or we're going to struggle to find resources. They're going to become even scarcer, which is a worrying concept to think of. So yeah, not to despair, and not to get overwhelmed by it, but to see that this is a real case that could actually flip the current model of linear economy, and it's really not a difficult thing to flip either. And so this is what individuals could do: is they could actually, if as an individual, if I wanted to find out more, I'd head over to, say, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation's website, or even I'd head over to Myriad's website. We're trying to, not only are we selling the products, we're also trying to actually educate as well, and just offer resources. So we write blogs about the concept. We write Instagram posts that are quite informative, like spreading the word on reports that other companies have produced, other think tanks have produced. And so as an individual, you can go out and you can easily access a sea of information about this concept, because it's so new. Everyone wants to talk about it, but it's just not heard of yet. So people need to start hearing about it, which is through reading about it, learning about it, talking about it to your friends and your family, and discussing it, because it is still a debated concept. You know, it's not the be all or end all, but it's definitely a push forward in a way. And then other than that, it is to just keep an eye out. Keep an eye out for actual products that are already circular. Keep an eye out for products that you can reuse and use those kind of products instead of the single-use stuff. So, for example, face masks. Obviously, it's a slightly touchy one because they're necessary, but the single-use PPE is a bit of an issue.
Absolutely.
And what we're also doing at Myriad is we've collaborated with a designer who's making face masks reusable, and so we've got reusable face masks on there purely just to counter the idea of single use coming through.
I'm proud to say that I was looking for it. My mask, I think it's probably in the car actually, is reusable, washable face mask. And it was Debbie, my wife, who said, we must have reusable. I do have some that are single use just in case, but I shouldn't. And your point is so valid there, Rob. I'm going to come back on something you said that I think is so vital, because you said find out more is a good behavior for everyone to do. Because I had the pleasure of meeting you for the first time just a month or so ago, and it triggered in my head, I've got to find out more. I did go on the Ellen MacArthur site. I have been on the Myriad site. And one of the things that triggered was this astonishing waste. So here's an example. This pair of glasses is made of a metal titanium.
Yeah.
In order to make 10 tons of titanium product, like glass lenses or whatever it is, there's 150 tons of raw material required.
Yeah.
Plus the energy to drive it. Mm-hmm. And that is just scary large amount of waste required. And then if it's single use, generates more waste.
Completely.
And that is super scary. As we come towards the end of this, because I really think already you will have generated a kind of trigger in people's brains to say, hold on a second, this is super important. One thing that I'm sure will happen is people who are watching will say, I'd like to buy a Myriad remade shirt from you. Mm-hmm. How can we help you, Rob? You're clearly someone with amazing passion for this topic. You've got some brilliant ideas. It's great you've got a business. I love the look of the shirt. How can we help you?
To help us, it would be to head onto the site and just share the concept, share what we're doing, and just sort of talk about us. We'll continue producing content, be that blogs and infographics that you can easily learn from, like you mentioned you have done so far. Just to share, and also feedback as well. It'd be great to get some ideas on whether or not, like, for example, whether the t-shirt quality is actually good enough for other people. We obviously love it. We think it's incredible, but that'll be a biased view to base it off that purely. Feedback and sharing, and that's literally the key to it, is that the knowledge and the base of the circular economy is there. We just need to get it out now. It just needs to be everywhere. Everyone needs to sort of have the idea. And the basics are not too difficult to understand. It's once you go really into the deep stuff and the implementation, it gets a bit harder. Definitely to help us would just be to give it a shot at having to actually learning about it.
Lovely. 2 quick questions then, and it's for my understanding. You said that when you finished using it, do I then return it to you?
So
that work?
So it would actually go back to our supplier. So they have the kit and the tech, which is quite high tech, to then chop it all up, chop the t-shirts up. It's kind of like a flow of material that's just going to be going through the economy, just like back and forth for infinite life cycles. And so what would happen is, if you were to send a t-shirt back, they would take it, they would break it down, rebuild it, reprint it on demand for the next customer, and then that would go back into the system once again.
So I love that. So 2 behaviors that you've inspired in me. One is I assume I can order on your website, could I?
Yes. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. Just straight on the website. Mm-hmm.
So one behavior is I order on the website. If the extraordinary situation comes, I ever want to give it back, which I doubt, but let's imagine I did, I have to take the responsibility to send it back to the supplier from whence it came, and I keep the journey going.
Yeah. Yeah. So in purchasing one of the Myriad t-shirts, you're kind of becoming more of a collaborator with us rather than actually a customer. So it's a different kind of model in that once we sell you the product, when our relationship isn't finished yet, as many companies are. Once you sell an item of clothing, you know, you're out, you're done. The sale's done. We don't need to see each other again. Whereas our viewpoint is that we sell you the t-shirt, but we still be in loop. So we'd still know, like if you return it and then you buy another, we can still follow your kind of track your progress. So it's never going to be a buy the t-shirt and throw it in the bin. It's going to be a buy the t-shirt, return it, and then buy it again, because you also get a slight bit of credit back. Every t-shirt you return, you get £5 credit within one bundle. And so it's more of a relationship than just a transaction, which is also quite a nice concept of the circular economy in its essence as well.
I do have one more question. I couldn't resist it, Rob. Your interest in this topic started at college, at university, and it went from interest to passion. What was the trigger that pivoted you?
Sure. Cool.
Real passion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice question. So the interest sparked in the studies, like you said, and then it really flew off when we had a module about sustainable enterprise economy, and there was a debate between circular economy, sustainable degrowth, and steady state economy. And the other two, to me, didn't offer much of a business case. Who's going to say, let's lower our production so that we can become sustainable? Whereas you could say, let's just redirect our production and carry on. You know, it makes business sense. But and then that led on to the dissertation that I was writing about small and medium enterprise breweries and how they could implement the circular economy to achieve a competitive advantage, basically just through valorizing their byproducts. So selling their spent yeast, their spent hops, and reusing products. So they capture the carbon and then they use it that was in the production, and they use that carbon back into the whole system of it all, and that would save them costs, and would also bring in further revenue streams from selling products that were originally being thrown out with no use. And then that was where it really started. Actually going around and visiting these breweries and seeing how it could really be implemented was, I think, where the passion began to grow pretty significantly. And then it was just actually through seeing it implemented. I think that's pretty key as well. I mentioned learning earlier, and I said go out there and actually read about it and learn about it. But that's only really one part of it, because you can learn about it as much as you want, but until you see it, it's not really going to inspire the spark that will eventually push it forward. And then, I mean, obviously being at Ellen MacArthur, it's just like Ellen MacArthur Foundation. You're surrounded by it, and everyone's enjoying it. Everyone's believes that it is going to push us forward, and so that just goes hand in hand, and it just builds on each other. Seeing the big name companies join and get involved, and it's brilliant to see. And there's just one more thing I'd like to say, if possible, please, Mark. It is that building on your fact about the titanium glasses, was that there's a stat we've been looking at Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which is that of all the emissions in the world, 55% would be eliminated by replacing from non-renewable fossil energy to renewable. But what's really key for the circular economy is the 45% remaining total emissions, which primarily come from 5 different sectors: food, plastic, cement, steel, and aluminium. Mm-hmm. All pretty heavily used products and industries. And so by using the circular economy, we can rethink how to use these materials, and therefore not only eliminate the 55 through the push towards renewable energy, but also eliminate the 45 as well through the redesign of how we produce and supply these key materials.
Yeah, that's a great way to final comment to get us inspired to do something about it.
Awesome.
Rob, thank you very much.
Thanks for that.